Hello and welcome to Makeup and Murder. Lady VonDoom here. It's All Hallows Eve. It's almost as exciting as Christmas Eve, except for instead of waiting for Santa, we're waiting for the veil between the two worlds to dissipate. What a hauntingly glamorous Freaky Friday. Today, we will be discussing some of my favorite occult folklore. You guessed it, vampires. So, come on, let's get spooky. First thing, grab your favorite primer. For me, that is Stila One Step Correct. I love this primer. I wear it sometimes on its own on no makeup days. It just really neutralizes all of the redness in my face as well as any dark circles under my eyes. As you can see, I barely have anything left in it because it truly is my go-to. Next, I'm going to go in with the e.l.f. Under Eye Primer. So I have a lot of creasing under my eyes personally, so I really love this because it just gets rid of that basically. And then I'm also going to be priming my eyelids with the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer in the shade White to really just help these eyeshadow colors pop. So what even is a vampire? Vampires are creatures of folklore that feed off of the vital essences of the living. Typically, vital essence is blood. So now that our eyes and our face are primed, I'm gonna use a little bit of tape to just make sure I get a really nice edge on my makeup. But if you are using tape, just make sure to stick it on the back of your hand first to remove any excess stickiness and to prevent any damage to the skin. And so for me personally, when I'm doing a look that's got a lot of complicated eye looks, I just like to start with that instead of foundation. So I will be doing eye makeup first today before dipping into some foundation. For this eye look today, we're going to be dipping into the Jeffree Blood Sugar and Cremated palettes. How do legends like vampires come about anyways? Well, basically the same way as any belief or legend does. A whole bunch of big fat misunderstandings coupled with some mass hysteria. In the past, people did not understand diseases, plagues, or how bodies decomposed. People suspected vampirism when a corpse didn't look like a normal corpse. We now know that things like soil composition, temperature, they can slow down the decomposition of a body. However, at the time, if you were unburied, your body didn't look like a normal corpse, if it didn't appear to have decomposed at all, people would mistakenly conclude that this corpse has actually continued to live as a vampire. After death, your skin and gums lose fluid, which causes the root of them and like the tissue to pull back and be exposed. So that will give the impression almost that they've grown. So the swollen belly, the bloody mouth, and the appearance of new growth made people think that these corpses were vampires and that they are actually engaging in vampiric activity after death, aka going around at nighttime and drinking the blood of the living. So now I'm gonna take the color Hearse from the Cremated palette, and I'm just gonna pack that really heavily onto my lids where the primer is. And then I'm just going to go back in with the Blood Sugar palette and just take the color Cherry Soda, and I'm going to put it on this tapered Morphe brush and just kind of blend out where the black and red meet on my crease. Don't mind all the fallout and stuff, we'll clean that up after, but it is kind of inevitable with a look this heavy, unfortunately, that you will get a little bit of fallout. Now that we're done with the base eyeshadow, let's add a little bit of glitter and some graphic liner. So I'm gonna use the NYX Glitter Adhesive to use as a base for the color Angel of Death in the Cremated palette. This concept of demonic creatures feeding off of the living has been around basically since the beginning of civilization. In fact, the first known civilization, Mesopotamia, they had their own version of vampires. It was called the Lamastu, female demons who resembled birds mixed with a donkey and a lion. They would feed off of pregnant women, women in childbirth, and children in general. They would snatch babies from their wet nurses and gnaw their bones and suck all their blood. Pretty fucking gnarly. So other cultures have tales of these bloodthirsty demons as well. We've got the ancient Hindu tales of Vitalas, which are ghoul-like demons that inhabit corpses. And we also have the Batal, who are undead creatures that hang upside down, like bats, in trees that are on burial grounds or crematoriums. There's also the Albanian folklore of Shritanga, which is a witch vampire, and she sucks the blood of infants while they sleep. So that's really neat, you know, nice and warm and fuzzy bedtime story to tell your kids about the Shritanga. Fun fact, Japan, one of the few countries that doesn't have any native legends about vampires. Now we're gonna peel the tape off and reveal this nice sharp edge. I'm gonna just clean up this fallout really quick and then we'll put some graphic eyeliner on. So for this graphic liner, we're going to be using the NYX matte liquid liner. The reason I picked matte for this look was because we are using some glitter and I just felt like this would pop a little bit more. Despite the occurrence of vampire-esque demons in practically every single culture, the vampires that we hear about today, that folklore that we typically think of when it comes to a vampire, comes almost exclusively from 18th century Europe. All right, so before we dive into the charismatic, garlic-hating, blood-sucking vampires we know and love today, I'm gonna hop off camera and I'm going to just pop some lashes on and do my brows. So typically my eyebrows I do a little bit more naturally shaped and less dark, but for this extremely exaggerated eye look, I decided to do more of a straight brow and a lot darker than I typically would. On my face today, I'm going to be using Juvia's Place I Am Magic foundation in the color Isla, as well as the NYX Special Effects palette. I don't mind it for Halloween-y looks because it is a lot lighter than my skin. It also is like a little bit more yellow than I actually am. I have like a pretty intense peach undertone. So this Special Effects palette from NYX is got a lot of really cool colors in it and it's awesome for doing Halloween looks. So I'm just gonna kind of put some white to mix in with this just to make it like really light, because vampires are, you know, definitely not out there getting suntan. So I'm gonna try and be as pale as possible. And then I'm gonna use the Real Techniques Wet Beauty Blender. The charismatic and sophisticated vampire of modern day folklore is attributed to the 1819 publication called The Vampire by English writer John Polidori. So his work was highly successful and it was considered the most influential vampire work of the time. So this story was written as part of a contest among Polidori, Mary Shelley, Lord Byron, and Percy Shelley. So you may recognize one of those names, as Mary Shelley produced the work that we all know, Frankenstein, in this exact same contest. So Polidori's work from this contest set the grounds for the imagery of the beautiful, alluring, and charming bloodsuckers that we know now. If I weren't wearing this high-collared t-shirt, I would probably take this all the way down to my chest just because it's so not my color. but since I got this high-necked t-shirt on, it's not a huge deal to only take it down to here. I'm gonna put a little bit of concealer on. So I'm gonna use a concealer from Makeup Revolution that is really close to my skin color for things like acne and any discoloration. Whereas underneath my eyes, I'm gonna go probably like the same color of this foundation, but just a little bit lighter than I typically would, so that it really just kind of brightens everything. Now, I'm sure that you guys are thinking, what about Dracula? Well, don't worry. I have not forgotten about our bloodthirsty count. In 1897, Abraham, aka Bram Stoker, wrote the quintessential vampire novel, Dracula. Despite it being written 123 years ago, it still remains on the bestsellers list. Dracula is actually only outnumbered by one other fictional character in regards to movie and other media representation. That other character, Sherlock Holmes. So Dracula truly is iconic. It was rumored that Vlad the Impaler was who Stoker based his Dracula novel off, but Dracula experts have denied this claim, saying that Stoker only used Vlad III, aka Vlad the Impaler, as a source of inspiration rather than actually basing his novel off of him. Vlad III, aka Vlad the Impaler, was born to Vlad II in the 1430s. It's actually not known when he was actually born. They estimate it was between like 1430 and 1428. His father, Vlad II, was a first-class member of the Order of the Dragon. So he became known as Vlad Dracul, or Vlad of the Dragon. And his son, Vlad III, aka Vlad the Impaler, became known as Vlad Dracula, which means son of the dragon. So I'm setting this powder with Fenty Beauty powder in the color Butter. And I seriously, it smells so good. I'm also using a Real Techniques beauty blender again, but this one is specific for powder. It's got like a little bit more of a textured like velvet feel to it, which just helps it pick up the powder. And again, I'm gonna use the flat edge for underneath my eyes just so that I don't accidentally get into my wing. Vlad Dracula has gone down in history to be known as a very brutal ruler. He's known for his really brutal warfare and torture tactics. Obviously, I mean, look at his name, Vlad the Impaler. You don't get that nickname without impaling a few people. But he was definitely not a vampire. There are no actual historical reports of him ever drinking blood or engaging in cannibalism. He was twisted, but not quite that twisted. So the incredible success of Stoker's novel just like really spawned a whole new obsession and just its own really distinctive vampire genre, really. The vampire since then has become kind of commonplace. Like, it's in so many horror films, movies, TV shows, games. There's a lot of adaptations now in regards to vampires. Now that we're all powdered and foundationed, I am going to use the Cremated palette as a contour, which typically for like an everyday look, I would not dip into a palette full of gray to put on my face, like actual cheekbones and stuff. But for the vampire look, it just seemed more fitting than bronzer. So I'm dipping into the color Last Respect, so it's just kind of like a taupey gray. Just make sure you tap off any excess or it'll be like really harsh. We're just gonna go like where you normally would for your contour, just up your cheekbone. I probably won't do my jawline like I would normally because I just don't know what that will do for me since it's gray. But, you know, around the forehead and kind of make like a C shape. After Stoker's release of Dracula, the characteristics of vampires changed. What used to be thought of basically as like a disgusting, bloated corpse has shifted into the Edward Cullens and Damon Salvatores that we see in cinema today. So now vampires are attributed with being ridiculously beautiful, charismatic, sophisticated, and charming. They have an aversion to garlic, they can't see their reflections, they are burned by holy effigies, they don't cast a shadow, and they can also shapeshift into animals such as a vampire bat. So we're just gonna keep building this up just until you feel like it looks good. Oh god. These looks always look so crazy until like the very last step when you're done, and then like otherwise you just look insane the entire time you're doing it. So I wouldn't worry too much about like making this look crazy blended and natural, because you know it's not really the vibe that we're going for today. But you don't want like a harsh line either, so I'm not dipping in more product now. I'm just kind of going over it so that it's not as harsh. And I'm also pressing it a little bit into my hairline just so that it's more seamless. So it was also suggested in Stoker's novel that vampires could shapeshift into wolves. But since the folklore of vampires versus werewolves has become so widely popular, vampires are not really depicted shapeshifting into wolves anymore. More often, the iconic vampire bat. But there actually aren't any species of vampire bats that are native to Europe. So they've only very recently become integral to vampire lore. Maybe I will take it around my darling, I guess. Might as well. Whew, this is a harsh contour. Okay, well, I am now going to add some highlighter. I might add a little blush. I don't know yet. I have not decided. When I did blush the first time I tried this look, it like kind of ruined the entire look. So I'm not really sure. We're gonna find out. But I am definitely gonna use some highlighter. I'm gonna use Jeffree Star Cosmetics in the color Ice Cold. This is a really beautiful highlighter, but it will come on very intensely if you don't dust any excess product off. So just keep that in mind. It also can come out kind of white. So if you use it for like daily look, I typically will top it with like a more gold shimmer, because otherwise, like as you can see, it's like pretty white. But for this look, that is okay because we are going for a very pale look. So I'm just gonna do that on my cheekbones, right above my eyebrows, and also down my nose and on the tip of my nose and my cupid's bow. Do I put blush on? Oh god. I feel like I should, just like a little bit. Okay, let me get some blush. This is a little bit better. It's the NARS Orgasm is the shade name. And I'm just going to take what is typically used for bronzing, but I don't have a blush brush in here, so this will work. And I just am gonna put like a little bit, kind of where we just put that contour. Just to add like a little bit of pink, but not anything too crazy because I don't wanna have to start all over. So I always smile when I'm putting blush on. Look like a crazy person right now, I'm sure. But it just helps me, I have like pretty intense apples on my, cheeks. And if I do my blush, like, it's just gonna get under here. And whereas like, this is the part of my face that I want more flushed. But obviously do your contour and your blush according to your face shape, not mine, because, they're different. I'm gonna do a little bit on my nose as well. Just kind of exactly where I put that contour to just give it a little bit more life. Okay, cool. Crisis averted. We didn't ruin the look with blush. Great. Now that this look is almost done, I am going to just blow out my under eye with some eyeshadow now that we've did the under eye concealer, because you definitely don't want to do under eyeshadow and then attempt to do face makeup. That is not the best idea. but I'm going to dip back into the Blood Sugar palette. I will start with Cherry Soda and use a tapered brush, and I'm just gonna get right under my eye. This just adds like so much depth, and it makes the look complete, in my opinion. I'm also gonna touch up the red right here where the concealer we had put kind of fucked up my little inside. So just kind of fixing that a bit as well. And then I kind of want it to have a little bit of black as well. So I'm gonna dip back into here with the other end of this two-sided brush because I don't want the black to get everywhere like the red. I like it a little more smoked out. But for the black, if you do that, I have a feeling it's just going to get all over my face. So I'm gonna take this and just kind of pack it as tightly as I can. And since we just laid the red down first, you don't have to blend it out because the red kind of acts as the transition shade. So that's why I like to start with a lighter color under my eye, and I will do that like a little more smoky, and then take a darker shade and just kind of pack it on a little bit more. So for the eyeliner, I'm gonna just do black. I'm gonna use the same one that I tightlined with, which is the Anastasia Beverly Hills. I'm gonna use this to hold my eye down so that I don't ruin my makeup with my fingers. And since I have a blown out under eye, I'm not being like careful with this because it doesn't really matter. And then for lashes, I just got this from Ulta as a birthday gift. It's a Tarte and Ulta collaboration called Lights Camera Lashes, and I just love the packaging. It is so cute. So that's what I'm gonna use for my bottom lashes. Now that I'm just done with all these finishing touches, I'm gonna hop off cam and throw on like a red lip and some fake blood and maybe some vampire fangs. So see you guys in just a second. Right, so these are I have oh god. Ugh. Those are not great. Hopefully I can figure those out. But we'll just be a fangless vampire for the rest of this video because those don't want to stay in my mouth. I could not resist and needed to put some glitter, more glitter, some rhinestones. So I have some Swarovski crystals that I did just kind of around the wing and in the inner corner. And then down here is some fake blood from Party City. And then this glitter blood is from BH Cosmetics. It's the glitter blood from their Drop Dead Gorgeous collection. So I'm gonna set this entire look with both the Continuous Set Mist from Morphe. It smells so good. And my personal favorite setting spray in the entire world, which is the All Nighter Setting Spray by Urban Decay. I use 2 setting sprays when I do crazy looks just because I am that bitch and I need this shit to stay on. Well, I hope that you guys have enjoyed learning about vampires with me and doing some spooky makeup. All of the details about this look are going to be posted down below, so be sure to check that out if you have any questions about any of the makeup that I was using. All of that will be in the description. Please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I am posting videos frequently, so make sure to turn on notifications so that you never miss one. All right, well, let's take one last look of this spooky vampire look before we get out of here. Oh, what the f? Now I can't fucking see myself. Is this a fucking how am I supposed to tell if I can't see my reflection anymore? Great. That's fucking bullshit. What the f?